Just waiting for the screen to transition.
Okay.
Okay.
It's amazing how long it takes sometimes. Go ahead.
Right. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department, such as meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you. Be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located in the bottom of the WebEx screen.
Thank you.
All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Mr. Chairman, the meeting is yours.
Thank you very much. Anthony, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Present.
Downing,
Present.
Fluker,
Present.
Curry, Paul,
Present.
Slife.
Present.
We have a quorum. And to maintain a quorum all the way through this meeting, we're going to take the last on the agenda first, which is Euclid Corridor Design Review, the Cleveland Foundation Headquarters Building, new construction, seeking schematic design approval. Everyone that's going to speak to this, I need to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury. If you would state your name, and I do, I would appreciate it.
India Pierce Lee, I do.
Mansfield Frazier, I do.
Nick Family, I do.
Laura Reese, I do.
Carrie Rivera, I do.
Sorry, Pascal Sablon, I do.
Roseanne Potter, I do.
Is that it?
Everybody say their name.
I think so.
Okay.
Rich Frazier, I do.
Thank you. So the one we're reviewing right now, I want to state for the record that my father actually sold some of the land to the Cleveland Foundation. I got no money from it. I wasn't an owner of the property. I just merely state that for the record. The director and I also had a conversation with legal at the city, and they also believe I don't have a conflict of interest in this matter. Out of precaution, though, I'm going to abstain from the vote, but I'm still going to act as chairman. I won't be asking any questions. I will just be managing the process. And then August, are you there? August?
He was here. He's here. He's just visible.
Okay. August is recusing himself and leaving the virtual table because he has a conflict of interest with this. Okay, who's going to speak first on this?
So, Mr. Chairman, I will. Good morning again. I'm India Pierce Lee, Senior Vice President of Program at the Cleveland Foundation. It is an honor to join you as the project sponsor to introduce the team who will present the plans for the Cleveland Foundation's new home, Midtown. Someone who has worked in community development in Cleveland for more than 30 years, I am so excited about the collaborative nature of this project and the way it complements existing and planned developments in the surrounding area to realize an even greater impact. For me personally, this goes beyond our building. Everything we have learned over the decades about engaging and working with the community to answer the question, for whom? Today, we'll be hearing from leaders at Midtown Cleveland and Dunham Tavern Museum, as well as the excellent architecture firms of S9 and Con that are working together on this project. Before we start, though, I would acknowledge Councilman Bashir Jones, who I think is here with us today, who would like to say a few words about the project from his perspective. I'm not sure. Is Councilman on?
Councilman?
Okay, well,
When he joins us, he can speak.
Speak later. Okay. Before our team members begin their presentations, I would like to share some context around why the foundation is moving to Midtown and how this move will further our mission to serve and engage the community. Our move is just one part of a broader community vision to enhance neighborhoods throughout the core city of Cleveland while honoring ongoing placekeeping efforts, including the vision of Dunham Tavern Museum to expand green space in the neighborhood and make its campus more welcoming and inviting to residents. The creation of an innovation district that builds on the strength of the health tech corridor and drives equitable economic growth, benefiting residents of all backgrounds and skill levels. And reimagining of the East 66th Street that has been designed by residents and youth alike to connect the north to south from Superior to Euclid Avenue. With this move, we are changing the way we interact with the community. For the very first time in our history, the Cleveland Foundation's home will have a street level front door and ample accessible community space for people of Greater Cleveland to come together, work together, learn together, and celebrate together. The design of our new home embodies our mission in its transparency, warmth, accessibility, and sustainability. We're also thrilled to share that Neighborhood Connections will co-locate its offices in our new home as it continues the critical work of building a more just and equitable and inclusive community. In a moment, we will hear about the plans for this space in the surrounding area. With most major development projects, there are a handful of people who have expressed opposition to our plans. However, this sentiment stands in stark contrast to the overwhelming outpouring of support and excitement from so many residents who actually live in the neighborhood, as well as civic leaders and organizations who see the bigger picture and great benefit of the collaborative vision for Midtown Huff and the surrounding neighborhoods. Today, you will hear why this is a defining moment for Cleveland's future and a project that goes far beyond a single building or organization. As a community foundation, our mission is to partner with the entire community, from nonprofit organizations to individuals and families, to enhance the quality of life for everyone who calls Greater Cleveland home. Our new home in Midtown will provide space where together we can create a future that honors the history, social fabric, and generations of Cleveland residents while supporting growth that benefits the entire community. And now I'll turn it over to Jeff Epstein to introduce the project.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here and for letting us present. Jeff Epstein, I'm the Executive Director of Midtown Cleveland. If you go to the next slide, I'll introduce the folks who are going to be presenting this morning along with us. I don't think I can control the slides, right?
No, just a reminder that I'll be controlling the slides for you. You just need to let me know when you want it changed.
Yep. Go ahead to the next one, please. Joyce Huang, who's our Vice President of Community Development, will be talking a little bit with me around context. Lauren Hansgen from Dunham Tavern will share a few words. then the design team, Pascal from S9, Laura and Nick from Bocon, and Terry Rivera from Regency. Next slide, please. Wanted to just kind of share a little bit of the context geographically. The new foundation building will sit in the center of Midtown, kind of midway between downtown and University Circle. Next slide, please. And it really in the heart of what we're viewing as an emerging innovation district, with the foundation being one of the key anchors. We've seen over $300 million of real estate investment in Midtown Cleveland over the last 12 years since the Health Line came on. And this really builds on that, but also is really a catalytic piece that's going to enable us to catalyze and create even more development in a way that is equitable, that is connected to the community, and that really creates a sense of place in Midtown. Go to the next slide, please. One of the exciting things about this project is that just one building is before you today, but I wanted to kind of give you the context of what else is being planned and contemplated around it. The project is part of several other planning efforts that will add substantial green space to the area, including the idea for a potential green connector going west to Dave's. And the East 66 TLCI plan, which we'll talk about in a little bit of detail, but which will be before you in the coming months. And these collective projects that are being planned with the Cleveland Foundation and the community really help shape and form what is going to happen after the Cleveland Foundation building is completed in this neighborhood to really, again, transform what we see here. Next slide, please. This is an early concept master plan of what we envision the foundation building sitting at the northeast corner of 66th and Euclid on the bottom of the screen, with additional buildings going up lining East 66, creating a sense of really a place of arrival within Midtown. As you've seen buildings come before you in Midtown, we've had a ton of development, but we haven't yet had that sense of critical mass that comes together and really kind of creates a sense of place. You can also see the idea for green space connecting through. Next slide, please. And this starts to outline a little bit more of the detail. Parallel planning efforts are underway with Dunham Tavern, which is re-envisioning their master plan, as well as heading west towards Dave's with the green connector and East 66th Street. And I want to ask Lauren Hansgen from Dunham Tavern to talk just a little bit about their planning process and their excitement about the foundation coming.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to emphasize how thrilled Dunham Tavern and our board is about Cleveland Foundation coming to Midtown and co-locating with us on our block. As Jeff mentioned, we're working on a project of our own, which is redoing our campus master plan. So I hope we'll be seeing you in the coming months again, talking about what we have going on for our own space. But Cleveland Foundation coming is really helping to spur what is a transformative moment for Dunham. We're really seeking to become not just a regional cultural destination, but really open up to the neighborhood and become an asset to the community and feel really welcoming to all. So we're excited about Cleveland Foundation's new headquarters and the ongoing district development. All of these things working together has made for a really exciting moment for our museum.
Thanks, Lauren. If you go to the next slide, please. And I want to stress, with Lauren here, and you'll hear a little bit more from Joyce, the collaborative nature of all of these planning efforts. Again, you're seeing just the foundation building today, but there are probably 6 parallel planning efforts around green space, connective corridor, new buildings in this neighborhood, and the nature of the collaboration between not just the foundation and Midtown, but between the community and new community groups, resident stakeholder groups, youth councils that are happening around this is just really tremendous and exciting for us. And I want to ask Joyce Wong from our team to talk a little bit about the planning effort on East 66th Street, which again you'll be seeing soon as a separate project.
Thank you, and thank you to the Commission. I'm happy to share a little bit about the frame for this development, the Cleveland Foundation development. You'll see that the East 66th Street project stretches 1 mile from Euclid all the way to Superior. And we are considering this not just a streetscape project. It's about connectivity 2 ways. One is across the many institutions and neighbors and stakeholders from Midtown to Huff and Huff to Midtown, as well as connecting neighbors and building community along the way. And so our effort, despite the pandemic, had 150 plus medium to deep touches with community members, residents, youth, stakeholders, to build this framing around how the Cleveland Foundation campus will connect across neighborhoods, and especially across Chester Avenue, which has historically been a structural and infrastructural divider between the two neighborhoods. If you can go to the next slide. And as Jeff mentioned, we will be coming back to present on this detail, but would like to share with you that we are excited about the streetscape planning process, that the 55 to 60 feet of right-of-way that is existing. We have our consultant city architecture have remixed what this would look like to include a 10-foot neighborhood path, a 6-foot sidewalk, a green infrastructure zone, and on-street parking zones in patches along the way. And the design and concept from this really comes directly from community members and their insights around safety, around multimodal transit, around aging in place, and specifically around what it means to have a just and equitable street that is a complete, green, universally accessible 21st century street. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff to share more about this project.
You go to the next slide, please. Thanks, Joyce. So this is E66 as it sits today, looking on the right where the Cleveland Foundation building is. I'm going to turn it over to the design team in a moment, but if you go to the next slide, this is our vision for what this street will become, with the foundation, with a new and revitalized streetscape, with new public space, with the first building and what we anticipate will be a multi-building innovation community complex on the west side of the street that really connects Euclid. And so I'm going to turn it over to Pascal and the design team, but we thought it was important to give you the context before which this Cleveland Foundation building comes to you today for approval, so you understand what it's sitting within and the planning that's going on around it. So it's my honor to turn it over to Pascal Sablon from S9.
Good morning, everyone. Can you do the next slide, please? I'm really excited to share our role in the project and how we kind of collaboratively came up with our design. First, always grounding the conversation and the design process in the site and contextually to make sure that whatever we design and how we design is always reflective of the culture of the architectural context and feels bespoke to that site and that community. And so in studying this site and the neighboring architecture, we see a system of warehouse structures that have brick construction, large windows, as well as the Dunham Tavern Museum and its relationship and materiality on the site. We also came upon this historical photo of the project that was previously on our site and kind of gleaned and learned from that structure, right? The fact that it was so large, so tall, created a tower and a wall that really divided the Dunham Tavern Museum from the rest of the community. So learning from those components, seeing those materialities, seeing those proportions and those building techniques, we started to formulate what we think would conceptually make the best sense for the site. Next slide, please. Okay, so I know there's a lot of diagrams here, but they're really all important. On East 66th Street, really trying to reinforce, echoing what Jeff had mentioned in terms of that the E66 and really pulling that fabric and contextual language and architectural language as it fronts East 66. On the other side of the project, which we are seeing on the lower right-hand corner of your screen here, is our consideration for the massing and trying to glean and learn from that historical photo. So what we've done here is really to try to bend and knee down the building on that side so that it relates more with the Dunham Tavern Museum and landscaping. And so by doing that, we really started to change the massing and allow for not just the building to become shorter and have more carving in terms of the landscape, but also allowing the greenery and the landscaping language of the context to come up and build onto the site. So as we hold the corner of East 66 and Euclid, we did our kind of massing of what was a warehouse kind of industrial style building, and then started to lift that corner to create a space and a public space gathering and a way of access for pedestrians, and also form as a beacon facing Euclid. And then also, again, carving and allowing that transition of our massing and the landscaping to blend and be braided together. Next slide, please. we also was considering the various approaches between the mass transit, those who were working on Euclid, and also the community of Huff and how they get to come and experience the project. So if I'm a Huff resident going down the street, I'm able to see the green corridor, and then I'm able to capture and see the work of the Neighborhood Connections program, which is a community space for community work. Cleveland Foundation has a lot of conference rooms and a lot of activity in that conference rooms. And so it was really important to us to have active uses against the perimeter. So it wasn't about walking by dark, closed spaces, but really about the transparency of the action work. Then we have the multi-purpose room, which is a space for the community and a byproduct of conversations that we've had with those deep touch points and understanding of what are the spaces that they need and want to see reflected in the building. So this is a space that they can use to do different types of programming, which is amazing. As you turn the corner, it was important to us that we have a main entry that both is on East 66 and Euclid, pulling everyone into our main entrance. And that also is an experience with the South Plaza. And as you come into the building, what's really amazing and exciting about it is right behind reception is a glass wall to that multi-purpose space. So as you come in, you're immediately seeing the work, you're immediately seeing the community as a transparency and a welcoming nature of the organization is being manifested into the built environment. We have work and gathering space in the core there of the lobby, which is meant to be both for the community and for the Cleveland Foundation. We have a cafe that will be functioning whether or not the foundation is open, that also has its own independent entrances from Euclid and from the Dunham Park side. And then we also have the mentor conference room that actually has a physical, like the facade is able to open up and have the indoor-outdoor transition kind of create these spaces. And really proud to be collaborating with Merritt Chase and the landscape team of the Dunham Museum family, that they've also created landscaping spaces that relate and respond to those internal programs to truly create that transition and that blurring the lines. We have a little bit of access points that it goes around and really enforces this idea that we have a four-sided building and a very transparent and inviting ground floor. The ground floor of the project really is meant to be as public and as open and as inviting as possible. Next slide, please. And contextually, just kind of framing the project in mind here is to show, again, our new building headquarters on the corner of East 66 and Euclid. Again, you're seeing the landscaping and some of the access points that we talked about previously. You're also seeing that green corridor that's adding 2 acres to the development and to the community, which is really exciting and really important about wellness and safety and health. That cuts through across East 66 and becomes part of the temporary parking lot structures that the team will speak to in a little bit. So I want to just hand it over to the BoCon team as they speak a little bit more in depth about our landscaping strategies and the plantings that we're using around the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Pascal. This is Laura Reese, and some of the landscaping approaches, as Pascal indicated, the landscaping is so important as our building is relating to the park and to the green corridor and the East 66th Street corridor. This has been a four-sided building that we are very aware needs to be integrated into all of the landscape surrounding us. We start at the north end of the building. Next slide, please. You can see that the north end of the building does serve as a service entrance to the parking garage and to our loading dock. However, we are very aware that we have the green corridor just to the north of us, and we've attempted to soften that edge with permeable pavers and green pavers that will make the transition between the building to the natural green corridor. So that was our first efforts to help soften that edge. Along the East 66th Street corridor, we are working very closely with the design team there to make sure that our plans and our planting materials are in alignment with their expectations for that streetscape, and it should be a very integrated design for the building. As Pascal indicated, we anticipate pedestrian traffic moving up and down that sidewalk and having views into the building, but the people inside the building are going to have some really lovely views outside into the landscaping. At the east side of the building, we are developing a significant integration with the Merritt Chase team and the Dunham Park design team in terms of the plaza areas and walkways and the cafe relationships, so that we're continuing to bring that landscape theme together and working as a unit with all of the design teams. This is a complex relationship for all of us. You can start to see the grass pave, the pavers that we're planning for, the permeable pavers at the north end of the building, and some of the plant materials in the slide. But it's the South Plaza that is starting to create that park-like experience under the building and create that welcoming entry for the building. Next slide, please. In this slide, you can start to see some of the detail related to that South Plaza. We are welcoming people into the building with this plaza. We are inviting them to relax and spend some time and pause along the Euclid corridor. And in this location, we are looking at plant materials that are welcoming and warm, and then we're using some wood grain pavers that are referencing the historical wooden streets in Cleveland, but also serving as a nice accent to relate back to the wood facing on the side of the building. You're going to see wood benches and raised planters in this area with a significant selection of plant materials. Next slide, please. This is a look at the entry of the building as you approach the Euclid entrance underneath the canopy of the building, and it gives you a feel for the plant materials that we're planning here. They are going to be, year-round color and provide a nice, inviting experience along that streetscape for people who are approaching the building. Next slide, please. This gives you an idea of what they are looking for in terms of plant materials that will keep us salt tolerant, but actually also give us shady space type plant materials, and keeping a color palette that will be year-round color and relate to the interior of the building. Again, drawing nature into the building while we are relating to the interior spaces is very important. So this plant material selection was key as part of the information that we are providing. Next slide, please. We are also continuing material to the second and third floors in our planters along plazas as they are along the east and south side of the building, so that we are continuing as the building steps back to bring that plant material into the nature of the structure. Next slide, please. We also have a temporary parking lot that will be on the corner of Chester Avenue and East 66. That temporary parking lot is meant to be about 100 spaces, and it will be a private parking lot that serves both the staff for the Cleveland Foundation and the Dunham Tavern guests when they have events over weekends or evenings. In this particular instance, we received some feedback yesterday from the Design Review Committee that we would really like to incorporate, as it was a really thoughtful set of comments. We had originally intended that there would be 4-foot vinyl clad chain link fence along the west and southern sides of the project, and then using ornamental fencing on the east and north. We are now intending to use the 4-foot high ornamental fencing all the way around the project. And we had eliminated any, or not shown any, shrubbery along the edges of the project. We're going to add shrubbery at the base of the fencing as well, and that shrubbery will be monitoring for shape and configuration and locations to make sure that we are not creating any security issues with cameras or access into the parking lot. You can start to see the tree planting there, and there will also be a solar canopy over the center of the project, and that solar canopy will be tying back to our building so that we can take advantage of the energy that it creates. This is going to be a very lovely project overall, and the most exciting part is the building itself. Today, before we start into that presentation of the building, I would like to make sure that we ask for final approval today. This is what we're looking for at this moment in time, not just the schematic design level of approvals. So please consider that as we move forward. And I will hand it back over to Pascal. To our next slide, please. I think I'm handing it actually back to Nick Fanley, who will be describing the interiors of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, committee, for having us today. I'm just going to walk through some of the plans and the intent of some of the building. The one thing I think that's important that we really haven't talked about today is that this building is also a mass timber building. The importance of that is, sustainability and the impact of mass timber on the construction industry, as well as kind of the warmth that we're trying to create for the interior of this project. We want to be welcoming to the community, or to the community, as you've heard from Pascal and S9 in India as well. This project is really about the community, and that was a big decision in materiality. So moving forward into the parking deck, we have a below grade parking deck, a ramp off of that northern end of the building with the pavers and the grass pave that you've seen, 2 building cores, 1 intended more for employees, 2 intended more for guests and access to the lobby space above. Mechanical space in here as well, and importantly, bike storage and lockers for those that are going to bike to this wonderful new location. Next slide, please. The first floor. The first floor here, again, is really about the transparency engagement with the community. We've heard a lot about how it really addresses 66 and Euclid. So you see our lobby here, a nice art gallery that the community is going to be welcome into, a multi-purpose room, and a suite of conference space that, as we've designed, we've been able to build a suite separate so that this portion of the building can all stay open after hours, after the foundation might not be in their office, so that the community can then engage and use these spaces as an amenity for the community. Neighborhood Connections, again, here doing great, wonderful things for our community, is going to have a nice storefront and direct access off of 66. Back here, we have shipping and receiving, the ramp, as I had mentioned, down to the garage, and then some other community spaces marching along the east side of the building. I think one of the important things to point out, throughout the design process, we have this cafe here in the corner that was intended originally for the foundation, and as it's grown, it's going to be run by not-for-profit company and be open after hours or on the weekend when the foundation is not necessarily fully active as a building. And that way it gives another amenity back to the community, so that the community has a new cafe and grab-and-go space that they can enjoy as part of this whole new experience for the master plan of Midtown. Next slide, please. The second floor is the heart and soul of the foundation's office space. So you can see a bunch of offices throughout the building, a lot of open office, really pulling everything off of the walls, off the exterior walls, so that way there's engagement and light and sustainability practices of getting, the entire staff natural light. I think one of the more important things, when you come up from the lobby, you land at this community stair. You'll see some renderings later in the deck. It's really about creating a community within the foundation. This is a space where talks can happen, TED Talk style, town hall style, whole office meetings, and a space that you can work with casually as you're bringing the community into the building. The green here indicates the terraces. You'll see another one on the third floor, and that's really part of S9's strategy to kind of deconstruct that edge of the facade so that it relates better back to Dunham Tavern. Next slide, please. Thank you. The third floor is, again, the continuation of the community stairs. You can see that it terminates onto another terrace that really starts to bring that green from the tavern and from the planning into the building. You see a kind of cafe zone up here, and then the boardroom, and that's really this beacon you'll see in the renderings of the three-dimensional imagery that really sets that corner and weights that corner hierarchy for Euclid and 66. Next slide, please. Nothing exciting, but roof drainage plan, just showing the skylights into the atrium, the terrace below, and our strategy for drainage. Next slide. All right, I'm gonna turn this back over to Pascal for a little bit to talk about the building and the materiality.
Okay, I know that we're time sensitive, so I'm going to speak my New York fast, and you let me know if that's okay. Really speaking to the materiality and the facade, I wanted to speak to our strategies and our process there. We really want to be mindful, again, of the context, learn from that, and be proportionate about the windows to really mimic that warehouse kind of structure, industrial structure that we saw. We also recessed the windows and the glass to be about 13 inches to again give that deep shadow relief and create again that language echoing within there. We also studied many different facade materials, ultimately landing on the wood structure, the Western red cedar. And it was important for many reasons. One, about being warmth, the inviting nature of it. It is also part of the relationship and connection to the Dunham Tavern Museum. Next slide, please. And making sure that we really understand the components to that. And as you can see, oh, nope, too fast. Go back, please. One more. Oh, hey now. Okay, I guess I'm done. Thank you.
No, sorry, the mouse is taking on a life of its own here. I'm sorry, which slide did you want to be on?
You're perfect. Wait, you were there. Go back. 20. There you go. Stop right there.
Okay, sorry about that.
I appreciate it. Next time I'll mention how tight on time we are. Okay, so also speaking about the materiality, the warmth, and the inviting nature, and then also gleaning the information from the Dunham Tavern Museum into the materiality of the building. We also did an extensive process in how we selected which wood structure to make sure that we were thinking about durability, maintenance, and how it would age well on the site. And also in terms of the glazing strategies, we were really looking to push for more low E, low iron glass on the main Euclid facade, that upper level, as well as on the lower levels on the ground floor to, again, maximize transparency and invite the community both visually and with programming. And then on the other punched windows, be more in the low iron to have that reflective glass because we have active programs behind it as well, but allowing for that visibility. So being strategic about that component. And also on this side, you're starting to see some of the metal reliefs and some of the glazing and some of the opening glazing that we talked about where the building's able to open to the park itself. Next slide, please. And in terms of the stain, we were working towards a warm tone that you see reflected in the renderings and the documentation. We know that the Western red cedar will silver over time, so we're working with our builders to preserve the coatings and create a stain recipe that will protect the wood and maintain its color, with the understanding that the color will change over time. And I think that's part of the exciting nature of the material, that the natural portions of it is allowing that evolution as it becomes more rooted and grounded into the site and into the context. Next slide, please. We also are pushing for balloon framing with that storefront that I mentioned previously, and also talking to the structure of the project. Next slide, please. We're looking to do here you're seeing all of our kind of material palettes so that we can kind of frame it all together in one conversation and how they relate to one another, but also thinking about the projects, not just wood facade, but also mass timber construction with glulamps with a corrugated metal deck and concrete topping. Next slide, please. In terms of the signage, speaking to the signage strategy, on the Euclid signage, we have a vinyl applied lettering that speaks to the identity of the building that we were looking to look more like ceramic frit. So that example image A is a bit too opaque. We're really looking it to be more transparent, especially since there's active programming and use right behind it. And then on the East 66th Street signage, those are channel letters pinned attached to our canopy with a concealed raceway, and it's indirectly lit. And our canopy is painted aluminum, just to kind of be strategic about our signage, to show our pride and excitement to be on the site, and to really identify the markers of access and where people would be welcomed. Next slide, please. And another view, speaking to those many components that we spoke to, the signage, the materiality of both the glazing on the Euclid as well as the lower level, the metal and aluminum frames that go around the project, as well as some mullion identities and what we're looking to do with the project. Next slide, please. Really love this rendering because it speaks to our community efforts here, that we're looking to gather and grab a space and create a space for the community to gather. Here you are in the greenway looking towards the Dunham Tavern Museum. You're seeing the north facade of our project here, where the neighborhood connections transparent glazing has wrapped that corner. And then we have the metal facade there that speaks to some of the back of house spaces that we have, and then the garage doors that allow for truck and car access to lower levels. But really this view, I think, shows and speaks to the intentionality of the project, which is really about creating spaces for communities to gather where they're welcomed and really enlivening and bring access and connections to the project. Next slide, please. Perfect. And I just wanted to talk to this space a little bit. This is the community stair that Nick spoke to earlier, which is the heart of the project. And as we talked about the ground floor being the place of building the community with the foundation and with the Huff and the neighboring tenants, this is also about building the Cleveland Foundation community, right? And giving them spaces that they can work and collaborate with, have meetings and such. So this is also a great space for you to see how that landscaping and how the carving of the building also came in and out and created these pockets of spaces. You're seeing some indoor outdoor gardens that happen on the third floor that comes into that community stair space, and that very large transparency that really connects back to the Dunham Tavern Museum, as well as that beautiful view up the community stair towards the north, seeing the Huff community as well. You also have the opportunity to see the mass timber glulam structures, as well as the corrugated metal, all again showcasing that we are looking to be as transparent and revealing as possible to the community. Again, echoing the Cleveland Foundation mantras and missions through the architectural language. Next slide, please. And yes,
I'm so sorry to interrupt. We've been asked to move to the question and answer portion of our presentation, so we will stop here for now. We do have more information. If any of the questions require us to move forward in this presentation, we will. Thank you so much, Pascal. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries. That was my last slide.
So you're going to leave us on this slide then. Leave us hanging, right? So
no, this slide echoes a lot there, so it's a good slide to hold on.
Commission members, questions?
Mr. Chair, I have to recuse myself. This is August.
Yeah, thank you, August. I mentioned that in the very beginning of the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, we have Director Collier with his hand raised.
Director.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a couple of points I just want to highlight. First and foremost about the importance of this investment. And it's very similar to what's been stated at the beginning of the conversation. Being able to invest in the community and actually do it from a place-based standpoint is really important for an organization like this. And locating in an area that is growing and that needs connectivity to the community is very important. One of the things that I think many of you may echo is that, this design really begins to do that. And one of the things that I'm pretty impressed by with this particular design is how it allows people to come into the space. The building is very open with the window treatments and also with the pedestrian plazas. It doesn't feel inward. It feels like it's reaching out, particularly at the pedestrian level, which I think is really impressive. The other thing that, I would like to highlight is the fact that the effort and intent to have reach into the community is something that I know that the city supports. Our core redevelopment strategy has been one that seeks to build off of these corridor investments and really create connective tissue into the neighborhoods that flank them. The efforts around East 66th Street does that. And this building is not just a building in an isolation, but it is something that is part of a bigger picture. And I think a puzzle piece that's really going to be important with helping to sort of bridge the the gap that has traditionally existed with respect to the Huff neighborhood, and Euclid corridor. So this project has so many different benefits, I think, on multiple levels. There's a ripple effect that is going to occur from this investment. And then the other thing I just want to, highlight is the activity that's going on 66th Street and the work that's being done and really starting to connect these very separated pieces where you have Dunham Tavern, you have Lee Park, you have all of these assets that are just not connected. And to see that this is all coming together with the investment of a anchor institution that is as local and national as the Cleveland Foundation is a really good thing for the community. So not only is it a signature design, I think that the environmental, social, and other implications are equally as important. So I just want to articulate our endorsement from the administration side of this investment, and really excited to see this is actually moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Mr. Chairman, this is an exciting project and I move approval.
Thank you. And so my question, Diane, they requested that this would be final approval. So is this final approval or schematic in your motion?
I move it for final approval.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second. This is Stami.
Okay, we have a motion second. Further discussion. Is the councilman on the phone?
I do see him now.
Councilman, did you want to say anything before I call for the vote?
Although he is muted.
Okay, any further discussion by any of the commission members?
Out of curiosity, was bringing this for final approval discussed with the local committee? If they still approved it as schematic, was that just kind of calling an audible?
Mr. Chairman, we have Kim Scott with her hand raised.
Kim, go ahead.
Hi, commission members. Yes, this project was discussed for final approval. And through our process, of course, we had to just kind of hold back and say that this was a schematic review. However, I believe that there was pretty unanimous agreement that the project was ready for final approval. And the only outstanding issue, as Laura had mentioned, and that is in the meeting motion form that you all have, was just related to the parking lot. And as she described, they've come to terms with that and decided to do a more robust landscape treatment and fencing to that adjacent parking lot. So yes, the design review committee was in agreement with final approval.
Thank you, Kim.
Mr. Chairman, I'm here as well. Councilman Jones.
Councilman, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Very, very excited about this project. It's something that I truly believe. I echo the statements of Director Collier. It's something that's truly connecting this community. I believe that a beautiful masterpiece will be created from the Cleveland Foundation coming into our community, which is now their community. We're very excited about it. The residents are very excited about it, and we look forward to see it come into fruition. And I'm very, very excited about the fact that they chose this young lady as the architect. It's a beautiful, beautiful design. It's amazing. I can't wait for young children in my neighborhood to be able to look up and see such a beautiful structure right in their vicinity. And I appreciate the Cleveland Foundation for truly making this a community project and having community members a part of it and hearing their voices and making it belong to them. So thank you, Chairman, and I would have definitely appreciated if we were able to get the support to move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. That was pretty impressive. You could drive and be on a video. So, okay, we've heard from everyone. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to Anthony, could you call the roll, please?
Bowen,
Abstain.
Downing,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife,
Yes.
motion is approved.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone. We're going to move on to the beginning of our agenda now. The next one, I need to give you a little bit of time, Maurice.
Yeah, just a second while I get back to the first slide.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll just say what
I believe
it is.
we have a lot split is number one.
Yeah, the lot split is number one. So it's permanent parcel number 003-25057. This is at 3809 Clinton Avenue. Who's here to speak to this one?
We have
Good
Jason.
morning, everybody. I am Jason Rohal, the lot owner, or excuse me, the hopeful future homeowner and architect for this proposal right here. My wife and I are requesting a lot split. The current owner has authorized me as the agent. Currently, we are proposing to split this lot, currently designated 3811 Clinton Avenue in the Ohio City neighborhood. And my wife and I are intending to occupy the eastern half of the lot for a single family dwelling for ourselves. We're currently working with the neighborhood and block club on the proposed renovation and use of the eastern portion of the lot. It's currently a double lot at 66 feet wide. We are proposing to split it immediately in half. Mr. Rulins, if you wouldn't mind advancing the slide here. Just showing the kind of greater context of the lot. We are in the heart of the Clinton Historic District. I will add that although unnecessary, the block club is fully supportive of this lot split, and it has been discussed with both the block club and Ohio City expressed general support for this proposal. Mr. Rulins, if you wouldn't mind advancing another slide here. This is just showing the site survey, which was requested, and if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide. This shows current structures on the lot in question and adjacent structures surrounding it. So we are on the south side of the street, just west of the intersection of West 38th and Clinton Avenue. So as you can see in this slide right here, the blue line represents the proposed split of the lot. I will add as well that the proposed lot width is in character with what else is or what is seen elsewhere on the street. It's a typical lot width as is seen on Clinton Avenue. And if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide, please. And this is schematically showing our site plan for a single family dwelling and a detached carriage house at the rear, which would be accessed off of Vine Court, similar to other homes on the street as well. And then if you wouldn't mind advancing another slide, please. This is just generally showing the first floor plan with a very large front porch fronting Clinton Avenue, again in character with setback and in layout to other homes on the street to acknowledge context. And then if you wouldn't mind advancing again, please. This is just showing the carriage house located at the southern rear end of the site. And then if you wouldn't mind advancing again, there's a couple pages just showing some renderings of the proposed house in relation to the other homes and adjacent structures on site there. So today we're seeking, if possible, final approval for the lot split. And just as a note as well, the western portion that would be incorporating the renovation of the existing home on site would be 3811, which is the current address to the site. and the eastern portion, which we just saw the plans for, would be 3809 Clinton.
Thank you. Commission members?
I move approval. Downing.
Second.
Second, Paul.
We have a motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries. Good luck to you. Looks like
Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Thanks. Mandatory referrals, resolution number 769-2020, declaring the intent to vacate portions of Lynn Court Northwest. Who's here for this one?
Looks like we have Councilman.
Councilman.
My name's Councilman Slife. I'll be presenting on this resolution. This is.
You want to move to the other
street-
side of your table?
Yeah. This is the street resurfacing project to end all street resurfacing projects. It's been very difficult. This is actually a unpaved road, very short in the West Park neighborhood, and obviously it's important for it to be paved just as a general city service. I think even more compelling, there's a young man who's in a wheelchair and has to get to the school bus, and it gets tough in the spring when everything's muddy. The right-of-way, the legal right-of-way, is a little offset from where the functional road is. So in order to allow for this project to go forward, we have agreed as the city to vacate a portion of the right-of-way that is really de facto someone's lawn and patio. Otherwise, they would have to remove a rather nice patio that's been there for decades, and we just don't feel like that's a good city service or city amenity or city requirement. So I just ask for your support for this resolution. And to me, it's pretty simple. Just trying to get a street paved.
Thank you.
I move
Commission
approval.
members.
I move approval. Downing.
Second, Fluker.
We have a motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next one is ordinance number 816-2020. This is to supplement codified ordinance of Cleveland 1976 by enhancing new section 347.20. And this has to do with small box retail. Is Blaine Blaine's going to be doing this?
He was on earlier.
He had to step out. He texted me, and I'm happy to speak on it. I gave him a message to let him know to hop back on if he's available. But
all right, go
if
ahead.
If not, I can be the Sherpa, I suppose.
Okay.
This is a big day for me because I've got
And
another.
Charles, before you get going, this was emailed out to all the commission members in advance. So thanks to Michael, so we've been able to review it. But go ahead.
Right. So for those watching who haven't seen this ordinance, you may recall that Cleveland City Council passed legislation earlier this year putting a moratorium on small box retail stores, applicable to a variety of different stores, but really seen as a reaction to kind of the proliferation of dollar stores within the community. That moratorium was through November 1st. So the intent of this legislation is to memorialize in the code our guidelines and what we see as necessary from a planning perspective to make sure that small box discount retail stores are appropriately placed within the city of Cleveland. What this legislation does, it's valuable in that it defines more appropriately what a small box discount retail store is, what we mean by talking about fresh produce, fresh or frozen food, which are obviously a lot of the points of discussion that we've had in Planning Commission as these projects have come forward. And then it also gives as you do for other types of uses where you're not trying to cluster them too closely. It specifies distances that are appropriate, for new locations relative to existing locations. So this is obviously the first step of bringing this legislation then into the council committee process and towards passage.
Mr. Chairman, we have Director Collier with his hand raised.
Yes, I just want to. Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to weigh in on this and provide some commentary to Councilman's statement. The City Planning Department and other departments partook in the analysis and drafting of this piece of legislation. With respect to the saturation of dollar stores throughout the city of Cleveland, and similar to how it was viewed with check cashing facilities, the amount of facilities were such that it was deemed to have what was considered a negative impact on the community. Even though we focused our attention on the physical ramifications of it, there was also other negative externalities as a part of the conversation. This came to light, particularly with respect to a development at 50, I believe it's 56. Hold on one second, let me give you the address here. Memphis Avenue, 5617, as you recall, which was a dollar store proposal in Councilman Kevin Kelly's ward. So these are a number of cases that we're seeing where there's concerns about dollar store facilities and the amount of facilities that they have in their under their umbrella in urban centers. So although controversial, very important piece of legislation. Obviously, the passage of this or denial, whatever takes place today, this will still have to go to City Council to be further vetted. Thank you, sir.
Director, I got a couple of questions since we were able to look at this in advance. As I read it, it doesn't include C stores. So if you're a C store, a fueling station, and so the C store wouldn't be clumped into this as I read it. That's correct?
Yes, one of the things that I think is really the defining of what a dollar store is and what it isn't. So there's a lot of conversations around how that's defined. The administration had concerns about the potential of mom and pop type stores being caught in that. So there was a lot of conversations about the definitions of it. Many of these dollar store facilities have very specific floor plans. Perceive that where the legislation sits now is adequate.
Yeah, and I worry about certain things, and I'm glad that they put fueling in there as part of it, because we don't want to spend, if we're city dwellers, we don't want to have to spend more money for gasoline because of where we live. I think 2 miles seems pretty large, but I'm guessing smarter people than me have been looking at this for a while. I kind of wonder, because I did spend some time looking at some dollar type stores, and I think a lot that people were upset about was just the general cleanliness of some of these stores and how they were stocked. And I guess my question to you, Director, is the health department, are they going to be involved in getting some of these people to fly right or close them down?
Yeah, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. With respect to the cleanliness and the health and safety, those are all, I believe, mechanisms that will, ensure that these organizations are good neighbors and stewards in our community. Obviously, dollar stores, done correctly, provide a good service and a good retail options. And I've said before, this is not an indictment on our dollar stores. And there are good actors and there are alternative models. One of the things that we see, though, when you get to scale on anything, particularly in corporate level, investments, that quality sometimes diminishes. And I think part of, our responsibility, is to ensure that that doesn't diminish. And when you get to a certain level of volume and you haven't demonstrated that by virtue of having that volume, that you could deliver on the quality of service that you provide, that becomes a concern.
Yeah.
I think the mechanism that many people often default to is what's available to them. And the mechanism here is to ensure that that oversaturation doesn't happen, which could potentially have a positive impact on service quality and get the attention of interest that the city and the community is about this.
Thank you, Director. Commission members?
Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with the 2 miles. Literally, it depends where you live. And I can tell you, I live on Euclid Avenue in Fairfax, and I generally cannot drive in any direction and not hit a dollar store. So, they already exist. So I would have to advocate for the 2 miles.
So is that a motion or a motion?
No, I was just making a statement. I was about to move to approve the ordinance as written.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Now we're off the moratorium and into something very productive, I think. Administrative approvals, please take a look and I'll take a motion when you're ready.
Move approval.
Second, Fluker.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Far West Design Review, Horizon Educational Center, new construction seeking conceptual approval. This is at 8700 Detroit Avenue. Who's here for this, please?
Looks like we have Mike Cloud and probably Adam Davenport of our staff as well.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury? Please state your name and I do.
Mike Cloud, I do.
Adam Davenport, I do.
All right. Adam, you were sworn in, so you don't have to swear in each time. But okay, go ahead, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time. We've been working on this project for a little over a year. Our client that we're serving as a design builder and developer for is Horizon Education Centers, which is a nonprofit organization that's been around since 1978 that provides high quality early childhood care and education. And we began a little over a year ago working with Cleveland State to look for some areas in the west side of Cleveland where there was a high need for the type of services that Horizon provides to low to moderate income children. And we determined the Detroit Shoreway neighborhood was a strong candidate for this need. And so if we can flip to the site location map, we discovered a couple of available parcels located just west of West 85th Street between Detroit and Franklin Boulevards. If you flip to the next slide, site context, there's sort of 4 parcels in play here. The front parcel was formerly the parking lot for the old Ferris Steakhouse location across the street. The Cadell Community Development Corporation held a parcel in the rear. And then there was a parking lot with an easement access across the Cadell parcel, which served the 16 townhomes that Smart Development is in the process of working on putting together a package to restore. So that's kind of the context of where the site's at. The next slide is a survey, which gives a detail on how the site's currently apportioned. I got some existing conditions photos on the next slide of the site, which right now is a little over 2/3 asphalt. A lot of the asphalt's partially overgrown. The Cadell portion of the site, at one time they had received a grant to try to do a community orchard, which they had done some plantings, and it has kind of been overrun in the last few years. We worked with Cadell's orchard committee and got a certified arborist out to examine the trees there, which we'll get into the results of that when we get to the landscape plan portion of our presentation. But essentially right now it's an undeveloped site with a lot of old asphalt, some old fencing and hedgerows that frankly needs cleaned up a bit. The neighbor to the east, the west, is Neil Terrace, which the next slide shows. And when we get to the elevation for the building, we're trying to draw some design context from Neil Terrace to make sure we fit into the neighborhood. But if we flip to the site dimensioning plan, in our discussions with, we've been to a couple community meetings, both to the Orchard Committee and the block meeting, as well as architectural review. We've tried to balance a number of things on this site. One is that if we receive, conceptual approval, when we come back, we would be seeking not only final approval after another round of architectural review, but also reapportionment. And we're looking for conceptual approval because the site would need to be reapportioned, which we're in negotiations with Smart Development to try to do. So one of our objectives is to get adequate parking for Smart's development and to split off that piece of land for them so that they have fee simple ownership, because right now they've got easement access and the parking is really small for the number of townhomes that they're going to be renovating that are 2- and 3-bedroom nice townhomes when they get done. So we've created a design that allows them 2 parking spaces for each townhome, as well as parking for our staff and our buses in the back off of Franklin. We've also designed a pedestrian corridor to give access from Detroit Road back to the townhomes. And at the suggestion of the Architectural Review Committee, we've created a landscape buffer between that space and the adjacent driveway for the alley for Neil Terrace to try to create some separation between pedestrian access and the drive. The center itself, we've tried to position as straightforward as possible. But we're also balancing the consideration that we need a safe spot to drop off the children each day. There are regular school buses that come here as well as parents. And so we've tried to create a drop-off loop, which still keeps the building as close to the street as possible. And at the suggestion of the Architectural Review Board, we've added some additional sidewalk access. So rather you're approaching the site from the east or the west or the center, we've got sidewalk corridors, 2 of which from a grading standpoint should be fully accessible, one of which will have a step that'll allow folks that are arriving on foot or from public transportation to have safe access to the front of the building for drop-off. We've limited parking out front to an ADA accessible drop-off point and 1 visitor spot, so that during the day, if you have a new family that's coming to visit, this center is going to be very visible from Detroit Ave, and that way they've got an easy spot to find to park. But we've pushed all employee parking and bus parking to the back so that we can keep the building as close to the streetscape as possible. We also made some adjustments to our plan here to slide the dumpster enclosure, which is tucked back on the side of the building off of the neighbor's property, which when we get the landscape plan, you can see we added some landscape buffering there. The dumpster enclosure also acts as a drop-off point. Meals are not prepared here, but they're brought in every day, and there's a warming kitchen. And we have direct sidewalk access so that food can come in, trash can come out for drop-off and delivery. The great thing about this site is the amount of green space that we can achieve for the kids. When we're done, 60% of the site will be green space. There'll be 35,000 square foot of play area, which will encompass a couple of playgrounds, a toddler's area that's separately fenced, a little a toddler tricycle path, an outdoor classroom space, and lots and lots of trees. And that whole area, the intent is to fence the area with the 5-foot black aluminum ornamental fence, which we need for the security of the kids, but we want it to be open and attractive to the community. I think we can kind of skip past the grading plan. We submitted to Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District and got their determination letter, which we'd work through. And I think probably the landscape plans where we can spend a bit of time. So in working with the Orchard Committee and Cadell, one of the big concerns on the site was there's existing trees. And there's some existing fruit trees, and how do we make sure that we're preserving canopy on this site as well as helping the community kind of get their orchard back, which they really haven't had for a number of years because it's been fenced and overgrown. So we did a chart here on existing conditions of trees, and unfortunately, a lot of the fruit trees, when the arborists came out, are really not in healthy condition. Some are. And so what we've offered to do is a couple things to help with the fruit tree situation. One is we revised our site plan to include an area where we can have a half dozen new fruit trees out where the public can access them on our site. And our firm has offered at our expense to provide labor and equipment to help. They've got a number of areas in the community where they wish to replant or transplant. We offered to provide the men and equipment to help get that done. And I believe the Orchard Committee would be helping out with any, new trees that need to be purchased. And so our intention is to make sure that, there's 23 existing viable trees on site. When we get done, we want 24 plus 15 off-site. The species that we're, trying to keep in around the building, we want nice, healthy shade trees for the kids. We've got a mix of oaks, maples, and honey locusts. There's a few honey locusts we can keep. There's one that's big that we could have kept, but unfortunately the arborist said it's rotten, and we will replace that tree. We've done significant landscaping out on the front of the building, at just behind the public sidewalk, in the tree lawn, and to screen our dumpster enclosure from the neighbors in the street, as well as provided some shade trees back along the parking area. And there's a pretty nice cedar hedge we're going to clean up. That's very mature cedar trees that we'll maintain along the property line. The next slide is the floor plan. And this design, the Horizon organization has been doing this for a long time, and this has sort of morphed and grown over the years. But some of the fundamental aspects of this design are that each of these classrooms, both to meet building code and for the outdoor experience, have direct, safe access to the green space, to the fenced green space from every single classroom. So on any day when the weather permits, an activity can be done right outside the classroom. In the event of emergency, there's direct egress outside. And these rooms radiate around a central multi-purpose room gym, which is where a lot of activities can take place when the weather's inclement. And off the back, there is a outdoor classroom space, which a couple of the classrooms open out directly onto, which is just a covered canopy space, so that if it's raining but it's warm, activities can be done out there for the kids. If we go to the next slide, what we even though this is a single-story building by necessity, we're trying to create a streetscape that allows us to mesh with some of the architectural characteristics of Neil Terrace, namely some of the hip and bow window details, giving a two-story facade appearance, some of the linteling, and when we come back for final approval, if we're granted conditional, we're going to be able to bring a palette of masonry materials that hopefully complement the adjacent row house structures that are there. The next slide just goes over a typical horizon sign, which we would mount on the building. I think this is from over in another Cleveland location. And then we've got a couple exhibits here that just help demonstrate reapportionment. If we go to Exhibit A, this is the current conditions. The green and blue parcels we have under control. The red parcel is actually a parking parcel where each of the townhomes have an undivided 1/16 interest. Smart, at this point, I believe, has control of 14 or 15 of those, and we're working collectively with the land bank to get control of the last one. If we flip to the next exhibit, when we reapportion this, we would have everything in green, a portion for Horizon, and we would do a lot split in combination, which would give Smart the property in red, which I think cleans up the title history of this property. There's been a lot of back and forth over the years. Easements have flipped sides. I think this cleans up the title here nicely. And our last exhibit is kind of overlaying the site geometry on existing conditions, which maybe helps give a view of what we're doing. So,
Mike, is that it?
That's it.
Thank you, Mike. Commission members, questions?
I move approval. Downing.
Second, Slife.
We have a motion second, further discussion. When you come back, hopefully you can get your lot split accomplished too, because you have to come back here for that. And I would also take a look at the design review comments and try to incorporate as many of those things as you can when you come back for final approval. Call the roll, please.
Bowen.
Yes.
Downing.
Yes.
Fluker.
Yes.
And Slife.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
We look forward to seeing you again. The next one is a proposed demolition of a 2.5-story residential structure seeking final approval. And this is at 4406 Rocky River Drive. Who's here for this?
We have John Roche and Daniel Chambers, it looks like, signed up.
Are you on the phone, please? Hello?
Let me,
I sent John a message.
John Roach is here. Hello?
Yeah, John, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, John, please raise your right hand. I'm going to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Does everyone have the photos of the proposed demolition of the house?
Yes, we do.
We see a white house with the gray trim on top, with a brick base.
Right. That is one of 3 houses that are on the Chambers property at the corner of Puritas and Rocky River Drive. The owner wishes to raise the farthest north house there, which has been abandoned for approximately 5 years at this time. Our plan is to is to remove all of the utilities, cap them off, demo the house, fill in the basement with an engineered fill, and then plant grass in its footprint.
What's your long-term plans for this space?
The space at not this time, according to the owner, is that it will be a green space, grass, and some trees. At this time, that's the only plan he has.
Has he looked at renovating this house?
No. No one lives at any of the three houses located on that property. They've all been redone to satisfy the funeral home business that they have there, except for this house. This house was actually utilized 5 years ago as a dentist's office.
Okay.
I'm happy to speak on this if I may.
Go ahead, Charles.
Thank you. Just first and foremost, Chambers is a multi-generational business in the neighborhood, and if everybody took care of their property in Cleveland as well as Chambers does, it'd be a better world. They purchased this property a couple of years ago as it was going vacant. Concerns about the vandalism that was creeping up, and Rocky River Drive is part of the long-term strategy of my office, City Planning and Development Corporation. And as you can see from the middle picture, this is a somewhat isolated home in between. There's an apartment building to the right, and then a building that Chambers uses for funeral planning to the left. It's really the only Rocky River Drive has a lot of chaotic uses, and this just kind of shows that. At this point, the business is interested in demolishing and turning into green space, which I have no objection to. The Development Corporation is supportive of, and I think when it comes to the Rocky River Drive being a design review district, it's really as much about ensuring that new projects, if you go further up the street, there's gas stations, there's empty lots, making sure that new build suits the best needs of the street and trying to create more of an urban environment. And this it really isn't applicable in this location. You kind of miss the houses as they come up. The other thing that I just add is that there's a number of funeral homes across the west side that have locations in a more urban part of the region, and then other locations in the suburbs. And I've just anecdotally seen a lot of families, when it comes time to plan a funeral, moving the funeral to a location further out, really just because there's parking. So I know that when I spoke with Mr. Chambers, one of their thoughts was that in the long term, this could help increase their parking and help to encourage people to continue to use this neighborhood institution rather than going somewhere else. So, long story short, I'm supportive of this demolition. I don't think that it undermines the intent of the design review district, and I know that the Development Corporation feels the same way and shared that with a letter that I know that they sent to Adam Davenport.
Charles, thanks for shedding light on this, because when we look at it, we look at the historic nature of the house and everything and the kind of conditions, but in context that this is part of the funeral home property and it's for their, being able to be marketable to the population, it makes a lot more sense why they want to raise the building. Thank you for doing that. Commission members?
Yes. Mr. Chair, to the applicant, you mentioned that you were going to raise the house and fill the basement. I have concerns about how that was stated. We need to make sure that everything gets removed out of the ground, any construction debris, and it gets filled with a suitable fill. That's part of the ordinance. I just wanted to make sure that that was not misrepresented. Thank you.
That is understood.
Thank you. Well, therefore, I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Cohen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I think this is record time. I'm going to close the meeting. We are at the end of our agenda. And Anthony, I don't know if it's you that you were made us a lot speedier this time or what, but good job.
Thank you. It was a group
Thank you,
effort.
everyone. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
It's called a shorter people.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Everyone have a great weekend too.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.